that human connection is why we trust, buy, work with people. And so I think being able to see the personal side come out on the professional platform just enough to create that human connection has been really powerful. And I believe it's where brand equity is built.
I'm Diego Sanchez, president of HousingWire, and this is 10-Minute Talks. My guest today is Sasha Stair, who's the CMO of Zactus. Sasha, welcome to 10-Minute Talks.
Thanks, Diego. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you on. Before we dive in, could you give a quick intro of yourself and of Zactus?
Sure. So I am Sasha Stair, as you mentioned. I've been in the mortgage technology space now for probably about 12 years. I should probably go back and do the math. Always on the technology side, but have definitely gone across the spectrum of originations all the way into the secondary market and now back into the origination space. And Zactus is a leading verification platform in the origination space, really helping you figure out the right data at the right time to use as you are underwriting and closing a loan.
Now, the first 180 days at a company are really key for a new marketing leader, especially for a new marketing leader. How have you been structuring your time over your first few months so that you can maximize your success in this new role?
Yeah, gosh, great question and hot seat question. Note to self, Shelley Perry, don't listen, just kidding. No, I think it's an interesting spot to be in, particularly this time of year. I joined right before MBA annual. I joined right before some significant pricing announcements in our industry. So that added some fun flavors to the mix that really challenged me to stay focused on what I came here to do, which is really look at the future. And so first 180 days, half of that falls into 2024, but I have to be really thinking about 2025 and beyond because there's only so much impact you can have out of the gate. And so I'd say the biggest thing I've been focused on is, take care of the things that are absolutely necessary in 2024 to make sure that we are doing right by our customers and staying focused on the borrower experience, but really keeping a keen focus on planning for 2025 and beyond, because that's where it's going to be the real magic.
Yeah, how are you navigating those spicy dynamics of the price increases? There's just been a lot of activity and engagement on the topic on LinkedIn, which you and I are both pretty active on.
Yeah, not a lot of sleep, probably too much caffeine, and a lot of grace. I think the hardest part for all of us, regardless of how you feel about it, is lenders are taking a bigger hit and therefore consumers are taking a bigger hit. And so, we're just really trying to continue to innovate ways to help reduce waste and help lenders think about where can you offset some of the impacts that we just can't fully control in the market. And so, really leaning in, partnering, taking that consultative approach and doing everything we can to support lenders as they continue to face, a volatile market with a lot of things that, again, we can't control.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Before we recorded today, I was looking at your LinkedIn profile and I noticed this shift in your career from being more client success oriented to now being very focused on marketing and growth. And I'm wondering if there's a story behind this career shift.
The storyline is really, I just go where I'm drawn. And I've always known in my heart that I wanted to do enough to be broad in nature, like have enough breadth, but also have enough depth to my career so that I could continue to add value. I think when we take on exciting new roles that push us past comfort zones, we become more and more valuable to our customers. And in this scenario, I actually love the evolution of how I got here because being in the trenches with clients helps me understand how better to communicate with them. And so it just feels, even though it wasn't planned to be that way, it feels like a natural evolution.
Yeah, it's a really interesting evolution. And I like the way you phrase that, that working with clients helps you find more of them.
Yeah. And they want to be spoken to at their level, whatever that is, right? So you got to meet them where they're at. And some of them need a certain type of approach and others need a different. And so being able to understand, having worked with them and seeing the challenges that they face, the problems that they need solved most just gives me more armor to be able to go in and support Xactus with ensuring that not only is what we're building the right solution, but how we message around it is also correct.
Like a lot of leaders who I track on LinkedIn, I feel like I've really gotten to know you, especially over the past year, as you've been pretty prominent and active on the platform. What does your personal and professional ROI look like from LinkedIn?
I love LinkedIn. It is my social media of choice. I feel like it's a place where, even though it is more professional centric, you've seen more raw authenticity and vulnerability coming out of people, which that human connection is why we trust, buy, work with people. And so I think being able to see the personal side come out on the professional platform just enough to create that human connection has been really powerful. And I believe it's where brand equity is built both. And I think your personal brand supports your professional brand. I believe who you show up as should be relatively the same. Maybe there are some things that we don't fully share on LinkedIn that we might on other platforms. But there should be enough of an expression of ourselves that can carry over and, again, show the magic behind the humans that are doing the good work that represent these companies.
So I know it's early, but are you thinking about bringing some of that LinkedIn magic to Xactus?
Oh, yes. I think Shelly's going to have to temper that for me. But yeah, I've already thought about all sorts of creative ways to reframe, rebrand internally some things that I think will make it more exciting and more fun and really get us out front and center. We have an incredible stacked team of A players with so much both domain expertise in mortgage, but also technology. And they just need to be front and center. And so that you're going to see a lot of Xactus in the coming years.
That's great. You've also been a big presence at HousingWire and other industry events over the past year or two. Similar question, what do you get from live events that make them worth the investment of your time and your dollars?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, I think I'm a unique scenario because my mom was a music teacher and she needed something for me to do while teaching piano lessons. So she put me in everything on stage my entire life possible. So I have that natural desire and affinity to be up there. But I do think that, not everyone has that, but people in the audience are there to learn and they're there to engage. And they are looking for someone that can get up there and work through very convoluted topics, because mortgage is not exactly as simple as it seems, right? We have a lot of unique complexities and talk about it in an interesting way. And so I think that, the opportunity for leaders at companies to get on stage and be able to show that you can connect those dots and really translate between the various stakeholders in our industry in a way that brings value to all of them it's invaluable. It's a powerful experience.
I totally agree. And I'm not as extroverted, but I still get a ton of value out of live events, being on stage, doing podcasts like this. It gets me a little bit outside of my comfort zone, but I actually think that's good for me as a leader.
Yeah, it's always good for us to push beyond comfort zones and or in comfort zones. I mean, I tripped over my words saying I was excited to be here today. I've been on stage my whole life. It just happened. So it's a good experience. And I think our industry, again, really thrives on relationships and connections and that human interaction. And being on stage is just an extension of that.
So you said it before, 2025 is a big year for you. I think it's also a big year for the industry. We've been struggling for a couple of years with low origination, low home sales, at least compared to historical trends. How are you thinking about Xactus's growth strategy for 2025, keeping in mind that, it may look a little bit like this year with maybe a little bit of growth? Like, how are you thinking about next year?
Yeah, I was just on a podcast earlier this morning talking to Jeremy Potter and Marvin Chang about a similar topic of, we think we're going to see another year where things are going to slowly get better, but they're still not going to be at a peak. And this is the time where companies tend to not always invest in technology. And yet it's like ripe for the picking because you're starting to make a little bit more money, hopefully. And now you can be smart about your investments and make them before we're getting to a point where, like with COVID, it was so much volume. We barely had people to pick up the phones and manage the emails and get through it all. And so it's like, how do you prepare now for when that comes? And I think next year is going to be actually a very special year to do that. And then the question just becomes, how do you pick the right partners to be in the trenches with? And what I love about the future for Zactus is, again, really focused on how do we reduce waste for a lender so that you can stay focused on what matters most. And sometimes that reduce is cost and sometimes it's time. And you need both, right? You need to find ways to continue to minimize cost impact to your bottom line while also figuring out the right balance of your resources. Where can technology step in and really enhance what humans do best? And allow those two to come together, which is what we really consider advancing the modern mortgage. It's bringing the best of technology and the best of humans together. And I'm excited about what's on the roadmap for Zactus to deliver some of those products and solutions to help lenders, again, through a challenging, but I think also opportunistic year.
Yeah, I'd love to see technology enable the industry to do a better job when it comes to the hiring and the firing that we've seen. Right. When times are good, we hire up a bunch of people, and then 6 to 12 to 18 months later, we're laying a lot of those people off because housing is really cyclical, and that's just how it goes. Do you think technology can help us with that problem?
Absolutely. The one thing I love about scaling technology is, though we don't ever want to cut back, if you had to, you can cut back on technology rather than on your staff. And that's a hard scenario we've probably all faced in our lifetime, if not multiple times. Unfortunately, it's part of the job. But if we can do a better job, sorry for being redundant, but do a better job at figuring out how to scale technology properly to help augment, and then we can be smarter about how we either repurpose staff we already have or slower in that hiring process so we can be more strategic about the roles we're putting people in, then I think you have the ability to flex when we have those down cycles again, and hopefully not have such a high impact to the people side of it, which is tough.
All right, last question for me. What are your must-attend events in 2025?
Well, obviously, I'm going to say not just the gathering, but also the summits that HousingWire has. This year, I'm very impressed with the summits you guys pulled off, especially your inaugural year doing them. Everyone I've gone to thus far has been out of the park, great events. So I'm excited about those. ICE Experience and MBA Annual are always, big ones, hard to miss. And I love the secondary market ones, New York and out West as well. I always enjoy those. And, I'm going to be remiss if I don't say I kick off my year every year with IMB.
What a great list. Sasha, it's been great to catch up with you today.
Thanks, Diego.